Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Tom Betts, your host, and this is season 8, episode 8, number 138. Today we're going to talk about a couple of oddballs. One is a rare Spanish Mexican Euro Western called The White Horse. We're going to talk about whatever happened to Gustavo Rojo, a little known actress, but you've seen her in a bunch of spaghetti westerns, Mela Pani in Who Are Those Gals? Film of the week is A Man Called Sledge, or just called Sledge. And I've got an autograph of the week, got a poster, and I've got a book of the week. And then we'll talk about, since don't have any CDs or LPs for either one of these films that were ever released, we'll talk about the composer and a singer. And then we'll wrap things up with news of the week. So let's get going with the history of the spaghetti westerns and The White Horse. Okay, first of all, I want to thank Mike Ferguson for bringing this film to my attention at least maybe 2 years ago or so. I'd never heard of it, but he turned me on to it and I was able to watch it. Also to Bill Connolly and his 3 issues, I got tired of it, in his Spaghetti Cinema fanzine on Joselito, which I was able to dig up a bunch of information on the actor that's in this film. Anyways, the Spanish or Mexican title of the film is El Caballo Blanco, and the English title is The White Horse. It's a 1961 Mexican-Spanish co-production. The director is Rafael Baladon. He's a well-known Mexican director. Story and screenplay are by Adolfo Torres Portillo. Cinematography is by Rosalio Solano. It's an Eastman color in Mexiscope. The music is by Manuel Esperon. There's several songs in the film, which I'll get to later. The cast consists of mainly Joselito, played by himself, Antonio Cueto, played by Antonio Aguilar, Manuel is played by David Reynoso, Juliet is played by Luz Maria Aguilar, and the grandmother is played by Sarah Garcia. The story goes that in the late 1800s, Joselito, his parents have died in Spain and he's sent by his grandmother, played by Sarah Garcia, who lives in a town in Mexico. So Joselito begins his long journey to Mexico. Once in Mexico, while traveling in a stagecoach, it is held up by bandits. Joselito manages to escape, and walking aimlessly, he meets a rancher named Antonio, played by Antonio Aguilar, and they instantly become close friends. Antonio gives Joselito a present of a white horse to ride, and Antonio takes him to Ocatlan and his grandmother. The grandmother possesses a cache of gold, and the same bandits that held up the stage kidnap Joselito and ask for a huge ransom. The gang leader, Manuel, played by David Reynoso, who poses as an honest man in town, tries to kill Joselito because he's recognized as the leader of the bandits. Joselito is saved by Antonio, but the boy's white horse is mortally wounded by a stray bullet when it tries to protect the boy. After Antonio marries Juliet, played by Luz Maria Aguilar, who's Joselito's teacher, they both will live with him and his grandmother. Another happy ending. As far as talking points, these Spanish-Mexican co-productions were usually made either mostly or entirely in Mexico, and this one's no exception, so you get an entirely different landscape view. Joselito was the flavor of the month at this time, and Tony Aguilar was at the top of his career and a well-known Mexican singer, Western and ranchera actor, so it was logical to combine the two personalities. Add a number of songs, 4 by Joselito, 1 by Tony Aguilar, and a duo by both, A Little Romance, and the producers hope to attract not only Western fans, but women and children to the audience. I've mentioned before, I don't know why the Mexican film industry didn't jump on the spaghetti western formula in the 1970s when it began to die in Europe. They had it all, an established industry, actors, sets, and western landscapes, plus the closeness to the USA to attract Hollywood talent. I feel they missed the boat and could have really developed into an international movie making center for Central and South America. This film is available on Mexican DVD in Spanish, and it's also available on YouTube in Spanish. So you completists can watch it either way. As far as actor profiles, Jose Lito, and again, thanks to Bill Connolly for this information. Jose Lito was born Jose Jimenez Fernandez on March 11, 1943, in Beas de Segura, Jaén, Andalusia, Spain. He was a child actor and singer nicknamed the Little Nightingale, and like Pablito Calvo, who we covered in episode number 134 in his 1960 film Juanito, Jose Lito was very popular in Spain and Mexico in the late 1950s to late 1960s, appearing in 15 films. However, life was not glamorous for Jose Lito, as he was treated almost as a sideshow act by his managers, not allowing him to become the teenager he was. That was a milestone in Spanish child prodigies under Franco, trying to keep them as little kids for as long as possible, and even locking him in his room between rehearsals so he couldn't meet girls. He was forced to keep his childlike image up to 1969 when he was in his mid-20s. He then dropped out of the public eye until adulthood, when he became a media entrepreneur. In 1991, an admitted heroin addict, he was arrested by Angolan authorities on charges of gun and drug trafficking. Subsequently, he was deported back to Spain, where he was sentenced to prison for 5 years, but was paroled for good behavior after serving 12 months. In 2002, La Joya del Rusnador was released, an authorized biography of Jose Lito's life. In it, he wrote that jail was the best thing that ever happened to him, and that it helped him to overcome his drug addiction, as well as to give him a different outlook on life. Upon his release, he participated in the Spanish version of the Survivor television series and is currently living in Utel, Valencia, Spain. This was his only Euro-Western film. Then we have Antonio Cueto, played by Antonio Aguilar. Got to take a deep breath because his name is quite long. It's Jose Pascual Antonio Aguilar Marquez Barraza. He was born on May 17, 1919, in Villanueva, Zacatecas, Mexico. Aguilar was a Mexican singer and actor who started his career singing on the radio. He recorded over 150 albums, which sold 25 million copies, and acted in more than 120 films. He was given the honorific nickname El Charro de Mexico, Mexico's horseman, because he is credited with popularizing the Mexican equestrian sport La Charrera to an international audience. Aguilar was best known for his love for singing traditional Mexican folk songs and the Mexican Revolution, known as rancheras and ballads. His films tended to revolve around rural themes and Mexican Revolution, which included portraying revolutionary figures Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata. It earned him a Latin Ace Award for Best Actor for the 1970 film Emiliano Zapata. He may best be remembered by American audiences for his portrayal of General Rojas in 1969's The Undefeated with John Wayne and Rock Hudson. Aguilar died on June 19, 2007 in Mexico City of pneumonia. He was 88. Aguilar appeared in one other Euro-Western as Antonio in 1963's The Gypsy Girl and the Charro. Then we have Manuel, played by David Reynoso. David Reynoso Flores was born on January 29, 1926 in Aguas Calientes, Mexico. He appeared in more than 170 films and television shows between 1955 and 1994. Reynoso was also a federal deputy from 1979 to 1982, representing the Federal District's 7th District for the Institutional Revolutionary Party. He was married to Bertha Martinez Fraga from 1952 to 1994 and is the father of actor Jorge Reynoso, born in 1957, and director, writer, actor Sergio Reynoso, born in 1959. He died in Mexico City of cancer on June 9, 1994, at the age of 68. This is his only Euro Western. Then we have Juliet, played by Luz Maria Aguilar. Luz Maria Aguilar Torres was born on March 26, 1935, in Ojinaga, Chihuahua, Mexico. She is a Mexican actress from the golden age of Mexican cinema, where she worked as an actress in theater, cinema, and television, appearing on screen 80 times. This is her only European Western. She's still living in Mexico. I cannot find any relationship between her and Antonio. Last but not least, we have the grandmother, played by Sarah Garcia. Sarah Garcia Hidalgo was born on September 8, 1895. She was a Mexican actress who made her biggest mark during the golden age of Mexican cinema, during the 1940s and 50s. She often played the part of a no-nonsense but lovable grandmother in numerous Mexican films. In fact, she was nicknamed La Abuelito de Mexico, which is, the English translation is Mexico's grandmother. In later years, she played parts in Mexican telenovelas. She died in Mexico City on November 21st, 1980, at the age of 85. This is her only Euro Western. Okay, now we'll move on to whatever became of Gustavo Rojo. Okay, let me take another breath. Another long one. Gustavo Adolfo Crefeld Sarandi Rojo y Pinto was born on September 5, 1923, on a German ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. His mother was the prominent Spanish author Mercedes Pinto, born in 1883. She died in 1976, who immigrated from Spain to Uruguay for political reasons. Apparently, she had written an article that was critical of the Spanish government and was asked to leave the country. Rojo's two other older siblings, Petuca de Foronda, born in 1914, she died in 1999, and Ruben Rojo, born in 1922, he died in 1993, also became actors. In the late 1920s, Mercedes wrote a play and Gustavo made his theater debut. Gustavo's screen debut came as a child actor in the 1938 Cuban film Ahora Seremos Felices, Now We'll Be Happy, in which his older sister Petuca had a starring role. In the 1940s, the family moved to Mexico, where Rojo worked steadily throughout the 1940s. In 1947, he made his Hollywood debut in the film Tarzan and the Mermaids, which starred Johnny Weissmuller and Brenda Joyce. Gustavo married the German actress Erika Remberg. She was born in 1932. She died in 2017. They were married in 1959, and she convinced him to go to Europe. He never regretted this decision. Because he could speak several languages, especially Spanish and English, he found himself called upon for both Spanish and international productions. He spent 3 years in Spain, made a film in Rome, and headed back to Mexico. Rojo continued to appear in films in Mexico, the United States, and Europe. In all, he appeared in 13 Euro Westerns, such as Apache's Last Battle in '64 as Corporal Bush, Pyramid of the Sun Gods, and Treasure of the Aztecs as Lieutenant Patoka in 1965, The Christmas Kid as Mayor Luis Carrillo in '66, The Tall Women as Gus McIntosh in '66, A Bullet for Sandoval as Guadalupano in '69, and The Valley of Guanji as Carlos in 1969. He also appeared in several American Western TV series such as Wagon Train, Lawman, and Bronco. In 2000, he wrote and directed the Mexican TV soap opera series Puro un Beso. Married 3 times, his last wife was actress Carmela Stein Bedoya, born in 1941. They had 3 children, actress Ana Patricio Rojo Stein, Ambassador Enrique Rojo Stein, and Juan Carlo Rojo Stein. Gustavo died in Mexico City on April 22, 2017, at the age of 93. I'll post his filmography after the podcast. Okay, now we'll move on to Who Are Those Gals and Marilla Panfili. Panfili, as she was usually billed or credited, is an Italian theater and film actress born Azzurra Panfili, that's Azzurra, on October 20th, 1946 in Turin, Italy. She is the older sister of director-actress Silvana Panfili. In the early 1960s, she took her first steps in dialect theater in opposition from her parents. She graduated from the Experiment Center of Cinematography, which allowed her to participate in several films released in the following years, which saw her accreditation accompanied by the initial CSC. This leads to problems with her filmography, as many CSC actors and actresses are listed in the credits both on screen and in print, but do not appear in the films themselves. Because the CSC was a state run university, tax credits were given to producers to use these graduates in their films. Therefore, many were credited without ever appearing in the films. She made her debut on the big screen in La Stagione del Nostro Amor, The Seasons of Our Love, in 1965, directed by Florestano Vancini, and as often happened for CSC graduates until 1975, she had small but numerous appearances in the 5 years following her graduation in the most diverse roles. The IMDb lists 114 film credits, but how many of these roles were in name only for Italian credits we will never know. She was present in productions such as Medea in 1969 by Piero Paolo Pasolini, but most of her filmography consists of average films such as musicals, westerns, giallos, and comedy genre films. She is credited with 26 spaghetti westerns, from bit parts as saloon girls and townswomen to supporting roles. Marella has been credited under several aliases such as May Pompili, Marella Dugan, Marella Panfili, Mariella Palmich, and Mary Sullivan. Panfili had no problem disguising her looks by often changing her hair color from blonde to black, straight to curly, and the use of light to heavy makeup. Some of her more well-known spaghetti westerns are DeGuayo in '65 as Anna, Django Kill '66 as a townswoman, Gerardo '66 as Toucan's woman, Fort Yuma Gold in '66 as Connie Breastville's friend, Johnny Yuma in '66 as a saloon girl, Wanted Johnny Texas in '67 as O'Connor's girl, The Great Silence in '68 as a saloon girl, Boot Hill in '69 as a ballerina, The Forgotten Pistolero in '69 as Inez, Django Defies Sartana '70 as a saloon girl, and her last Western, Shango, in 1970 as Marisol. Again, I'll post her filmography after the podcast is over. Now we'll move on to the film of the week, and it's A Man Called Sledge. Okay, bear with me for a second while I get these pages untangled here. Okay, A Man Called Sledge. The Italian title is Sledge. USA title is A Man Called Sledge. It's a 1970 Italian production produced by Dino De Laurentiis. The directors are Vic Morrow and Giorgio Gentili. Story is by Massimo Divac. Screenplay is by Divac, Frank Kowalski, and Vic Morrow. Cinematography is by Luigi Cavalier. It's in Technicolor and Technoscope. Music is by Gianni Ferrio, and this main song is called Other Men's Gold. Is sung by Stefan Grossman. Running time is 93 minutes. The main cast is Luther Sledge, played by James Garner, Irwin Ward, played by Dennis Weaver, Hooker, played by Claude Akins, the Old Man, played by John Marley, and Rhea, played by Laura Antonelli. Other names in the cast that you'll recognize are Sheriff Ripley was played by Wade Preston, Floyd was played by Ken Clark, Jade was played by Paola Barbara, Bice was played by Bruno Corazzari. A poker player in the beginning of the film is played by Remo DeAngelis. Red was played by Stefan Zacharias from the Trinity films. And the warden was played by Riccardo Gironi. Okay, the story goes Luther Sledge, played by James Garner, an outlaw with a large price on his head, is determined to steal a cargo of gold en route to a fortress which the old man, played by John Marley, has told him about. Putting aside the idea of attacking the convoy during transport because of the presence of a large number of well armed guards, Sledge comes up with a clever trick. Using one of his henchmen, Irwin Ward, played by Dennis Weaver, pretending to be a law officer, Sledge is taken to the fortress as a prisoner in Ward's custody. After getting inside and taking control of the fortress and the gold, it soon ends up in their hands and those of their henchmen, who gamble it away. A first fierce battle then rages between the gang to take sole possession of the spoils. During these clashes, Rhea, played by Laura Antonelli, Sledge's woman, is brutally murdered. For this deed, Sledge turns on his men and eliminates the murderers one at a time, and in the end loses the gold. Okay, I've made a bunch of notes on this after I've printed it out, so bear with me. The fort in the film is the same one used in The Deserter. It's not El Condor. That fort is called Fuerte de Laurentis. It's in Tabernas, Almeria. It's also seen in Blind Man, and it was built by Dino De Laurentiis for this film. Also, the village is Pelopas in the province in Granada, northwest of Almeria, and it's very isolated. I've been there in 2003. Garner said a few of the residents were unaware of both the Spanish Civil War and World War II. That's how isolated it was. It's been used in several spaghetti westerns, and the old town of El Puental, about 2 miles away, which is in ruins, was also used for spaghetti western films. The residents were a very religious community, and it plays well at the end of the film and the celebration march through town during the final gunfight. El Punto was seen in God Forgives, I Don't. The whole final shootout has a lot of religious symbolism and imagery, including that great touch of having the crucifix used as a splint by Garner. Hooker and the old man are also waiting for Sledge in a crumbling church. The church is not a real church, is not part of Opus. It was a set built by De Laurentiis. The assembled group of actors is one of the best of the genre and gives the impression that it's an American Western filmed in Spain. That's a bit harsh, as director Vic Morrow did an excellent job, and his experience in dramas and war films give this film an edge. A bit of trivia here: Morrow was fired midway through the film and was replaced by Giorgio Gentili, who directed Bang Bang Kid using the pseudonym Stanley Prager. Garner plays against type and, like Hour of the Gun, portrays a determined and fixated antagonist. Garner, Weaver, Akins, Tony Young, Wade Preston, Ken Clark had all appeared in American television westerns. Another bit of trivia: according to Terrence Demon and his book For a Few Dollars More in Almeria, 2,000 extras were hired for the film. In his memoir, The Garner Files, Jim blasted A Man Called Sledge, calling it sludge, and declared that it only deserved half a star out of a possible 5-star rating system. He also said that he couldn't figure out how Dino De Laurentiis convinced him to do the movie. Garner apparently forgot that earlier in a book he wrote that Sledge was one of the several movies in his career that he did strictly for the money. Yet Garner turned in an excellent performance. Another bit of trivia: Vic Morrow actually appeared in Sledge in heavy makeup and disguised as a scout of the Gold Convoy escort. He's the guy riding the Pinto horse, blowing the horn. I've never been able to find out what the reason was that Garner disliked this film so much. All the cast members were familiar and basically friends he had worked with in films or TV. So I don't believe it was a problem with the cast. Maybe because Dino De Laurentiis took the editing out of the control of director Vic Morrow and actually fired him. That could be a reason for not liking the movie in its entirety. This is available on Blu-ray in Germany, and it's available on DVD in Germany, United States, Japan, Spain, and Australia. Okay, as far as profiles are concerned, Luther Sledge was played by James Garner. Jack Edward Baumgartner was raised and born in Norman, Oklahoma on April 7, 1928. Known mainly as a TV actor where he starred as Brett Maverick in Maverick from 57 to 62 and the new Maverick in 78, Young Maverick in 79, Brett Maverick in 81 to 82, and as Jim Rockford in the Rockford Files 74 to 80. He starred in films such as The Great Escape, Duel at Diablo, Grand Prix, Support Your Local Sheriff, and Gunfighter, Space Cowboys, to name a few. He was a fan favorite and was associated with friends Steve McQueen and James Coburn. Garner was also a real race car driver over the years. He was married to singer Lois Josephine Fleischman Clark from 56 to 2014. He is the adopted father of Kimberly Garner, born in 49, and father of producer-author Gigi Greta Garner, born in 58. Jim died in Brentwood, California on July 19, 2014 at the age of 86. Sledge was his only Euro Western. Then we have Aaron Ward, played by Dennis Weaver. William Dennis Weaver was another good old boy actor similar to Garner, who was born in Joplin, Missouri on June 4, 1924. He was another TV actor who gained fame as Chester Good in Gunsmoke from 55 to 1964, and as Sam McCloud in McCloud from 1970 to 1977. He also was noted for his performance in 1971's TV film Duel, directed by Steven Spielberg. Weaver and Garner had previously worked together in Duel at Diablo. Weaver was married to Jerry Stowell from 1945 to 2006 and was the father of producer Richard Weaver, born in 48, actor Robbie Weaver, born in 53, and actor Rusty Weaver, born in 59. Dennis died in Ridgeway, Colorado of cancer on February 24, 2006 at the age of 82. Sledge was his only spaghetti western. Then we have Hooker, played by Claude Akins. Claude Marion Akins was born in Nelson, Georgia on May 25, 1926. He was a film, TV actor, and singer. He spent most of his career playing villains until he found stardom on TV as Sheriff Elroy P. Lobo in the Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo from 1979 to 1981. An excellent supporting actor, he was married to Teresa Pye Fairfield from 52 to 94, and the father of three children. Claude appeared in one of the spaghetti western as Frank in 1966's Return of the Magnificent Seven. He died of cancer in Altadena, California on January 27, 1994, at the age of 68. A bit of trivia here, too. Claude sang in the choir at the church I attended in the 1960s, Our Lady of Lourdes in Northridge, California. Last but not least, we have the old man, played by John Marley. John Marley was born Mortimer Marlieb, M-A-R-L-I-E-B, on October 17, 1907 in Harlem, New York. He was a theater, film, TV actor married to actress Stanja Lowe from 51 to 72, and the father of three children, including actor Ben Marley, born in 57. He was then married to Sandra L. Ulasevich from 75 to 84, and the father of one more child. Marley appeared in 250 films and television series during a career spanning over 45 years. He appeared in one other spaghetti western, Kid Vengeance, as Jesus in the 1976 film starring Lee Van Cleef. Marley died in Los Angeles from complications after an open heart surgery on May 22, 1984. He was 76. Last but not least, we have Rhea, played by Laura Antonelli. Laura Antonez was born on November 28, 1941 in Pola, Istria, Croatia. Her parents then left Yugoslavia after World War II and settled in Naples, Italy, where her father worked as a hospital administrator. Laura began her career working in advertisements for Coca-Cola. In 1965, she made her first feature film appearance in Le Sediceni, although her performance went uncredited. Her American debut came in 1966 in Dr. Goldfoot and the Girl Bombs. Other roles followed. Her breakthrough came in 1973's Malaysia. She then appeared in a number of sex farces such as Till Marriage Do Us Part in 1974. She also appeared in serious dramas but remained an Italian sex symbol. She was married to publisher Enrico Piacentini from 1969 to 71. She died of a heart attack in Rome on June 22nd, 2015, at the age of 73. This also was her only spaghetti western. Okay, now we'll move on to CD of the week. Esperon Gonzalez was born on August 3rd, 1911, in Mexico City. He was a Mexican songwriter and composer, along with the famous Mexican author Ernesto Cortázar. Esperon co-wrote many songs for Mexican films. Among other performers, Pedro Infante, Los Panchos, and Jorge Negrete have made his songs well known. His fame in the U.S. derives from when his song Ay Jalisco No Te Rajas was used in the Disney film The Three Caballeros in 1945. Esperon was also composed a score and songs for one other Euro Western, The Warriors of Pancho Villa in 1966, starring Carmen Sevilla and Julio Aleman. Until his death, he was the honorary president for life of the Society of Authors and Composers of Mexico. Manuel Esperon died in Cuernavaca, Morelos, Mexico, of a heart attack on February 13th, 2011. He was 99. Okay, we've previously covered composer Gianni Ferrio, who composed the score for Sledge. So we'll take a moment to talk about the singer of the main theme song, Other Men's Gold, which is Stefan Grossman. Grossman was born in Brooklyn, New York on April 16, 1945. He is an author, music producer, guitarist, songwriter, and singer. He started playing acoustic guitar at the age of 9. He helped form the Even Dozen Jug Band in 1963 with other notable members, Steve Katz of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, John Sebastian of the Lovin' Spoonful, and Diana Muldaur of Midnight at the Oasis fame. In 1967, Grossman traveled to Europe and met Eric Clapton and played at various folk clubs. He eventually settled in Italy, where he lived for 7 years. He returned to the U.S. in 1987. He then opened up the Stefan Grossman Guitar Workshop and began accumulating concert footage of the old blues and country artists who had been rediscovered in the 1960s and had often made TV appearances. This was the basis of Vestapol Videos, which edited and reissued this footage. Grossman resumed touring in 2006. Since then, he's appeared in Europe and Japan as well as the U.S. He co-founded Kicking Mule Records in 1972 in Berkeley, California. It was purchased in 2004 by Concord Records. Grossman also sang the title song Let It Rain, Let It Pour for the 1971 spaghetti western The Ballad of Ben and Charlie, starring Juliana Gemma and George Eastman. Okay, let's move on to the autograph of the week. Okay, apropos for this week's film of the week, Man Called Sledge, I have an autograph. Jay will be proud of me because it's matted, of James Garner. On the bottom is a first cover stamp, and I had to read it because it's very small print. It's the 50th anniversary of the Rough Riders. It's dated 1948. Now, what that has to do with James Garner, I have no idea, but he autographed that first day cover. Okay, let's move on to Tom's poster attic. Okay, first thing, let's get rid of this advertising ad mat. This is American, and as we've shown before, it has multiple pages with ads for newspaper printing advertising the film. It's got pictures of the actors themselves from the film, stills. and sometimes a synopsis of the film. And then I've got the American full poster for Sledge, which is a photo of James Garner. Okay, that's the American poster. Now let's move on to Book of the Week. Okay, the Book of the Week is an Italian book. It's Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. It's by Mario Bertolino and Ettore Rodella. Came out in 2002 from Gremisi Editore. It's in Italian. It's 95 pages. It's got quite a few pictures in here that are not, I've not seen published before. Filmography in the back. So if you're into Terence Hill and Bud Spencer, that may be one you want to pick up. Okay? Now we'll finish things up with the weekly news. Okay, as I mentioned last time, in August, Europe basically shuts down, so there's not a lot of DVDs, CDs, Blu-rays released. So this week we've got the new French Zorro TV miniseries, which premiered on the Paramount Network on September 6th. The series stars Jean Jourdain as Don Diego de la Vega and his alter ego Zorro. It was filmed in southern Spain, with the series unfolding in 1821 as Don Diego de la Vega becomes the mayor of Los Angeles and has to face off against a corrupt businessman, Don Emanuel. That'll be released here in the States later this year. I think I saw December. Then we have a birthday celebration on Thursday, September 12th, marked the 60th anniversary of the release of Per un pugno di dollari in Italy. We would know it in America, and the rest of the world is a fistful of dollars. So happy birthday to the film that started it all. We have two new Swedish Blu-rays which have been released. The first is, I can't pronounce their names at all, Et van Darna. It's The Immigrants. Came out in 1971, directed by Jan Troll and starring Max von Sydow and Liv Ullmann. It was released on September 2nd on Studio S label. It's in Region B in Swedish with English subtitles. It runs 192 minutes. Extras include a commentary, a photo gallery, documentary, and a trailer. Also released on that same day is the sequel, Nybengarna, The New Land, 1972. Same director, same cast. It's in Swedish and English with Swedish subtitles. It runs 200 minutes. Extras include a commentary, photo gallery, radio spot, and documentary. Then we have a new British 4K / Blu-ray release of Red Sun, directed by Terence Young and starring Charles Bronson, Alain Delon, Toshiro Mifune, and Ursula Andress, which came out in 1971. It was released on September 9th on the Studio Canal label. It contains 2 discs in regions A, B, C. It's in English with a running time of 112 minutes. Extras include On the Set of Red Sun, extract from Pour le Cinema, directed by Pierre Mignot, a new interview with Steve Okazaki, an original trailer, and 4 postcards. Then we have a new German Blu-ray / DVD release of 1971's Modello. No, not that Modello. This is Bad Man's River, directed by Eugenio Martin and starring Lee Van Cleef, Gina Lollobrigida, James Mason, and Gianni Garco. It was released on September 13th on Hansescound Lighthouse label. It contains 1 disc in both German and English languages, no subtitles. The running time is 92 minutes. Extras include a reversible cover and a trailer. And then we have our local, always Boot Hill. First we have Croatian stuntman and actor Mirko Ivankovic. He died from heart complications on September 6th. He was 86. Mirko was born in Sarajevo, Bršk, Yugoslavia on March 1st, 1939. He appeared in 4 films of the Karl May, Treasure of Silver Lake, and the Winnetou trilogy. Then we have composer, producer, arranger, conductor, keyboardist, singer Giacomo Dell'Orso. He died in Rome on September 9th. He was 92. He was the older brother of producer, composer, and conductor Gianni Dell'Orso, born in 1941, and the husband of vocalist Etta Dell'Orso, 1935. She's still living. Giacomo was born in Ofina, L'Aquila, Italy, on December 2nd, 1931. He worked on over 50 film scores in various capacities and is best known for his 1980 score for Zombie Holocaust. Giacomo was the conductor on the scores of two spaghetti westerns, Those Dirty Dogs in 73 and Macho Killers in 77. And last but not least, we have veteran British theatre, film, and TV actor Kenneth Cope, who died at his home in the northern seaside town of Southport in Sefton, Liverpool, England, on September 11th. He was 93. Born Kenneth Charles Cope on June 14th, 1931 in Liverpool, he was an incredible icon of British TV and film. Cope and Rennie Lister, his wife of 63 years, met in 61. They both joined the cast of long-running TV soap opera Coronation Street. He played Petty Crook Joe Stone as a semi-regular through the early and mid-60s. He later returned to the role after an absence of 42 years. The 1960s proved to be a breakthrough decade for him, with a double whammy of him playing in Coronation Street, and starting in 62, spent a year appearing on This Was the Week That Was, a seminal late-night satirical show that aimed at sharp wit at the establishment. Cope appeared in one Euro Western, The Desperados, in 1969 as Carlin, and also played the role of Percy Jesse James on the British TV comedy takeoff series Boodle Saddles. So that wraps it up for this episode. So until we meet again down the road, this has been a Roberto Genesi production, and adios, amigos.